anyone and everyone who decides to watch the stuff I put on the internet. My name's Kyle, and this is going to be my follow-up video to my PC build that I did recently. This is going to be all my benchmarks and kind of temp schematics, or whatever you want to call it, temps and benchmarks. Let's just call it that. But it is for my i7 6700K build, which turned out really well. I had said in my previous video, which you can check out over here, that I had it overclocked to a 4.8. I have since brought that down to a 4.7 because I was having issues with Cinebench where I like to have my own personal temp settings. I don't want to go higher than like 80 degrees-ish. And throwing it at the 4.8 with the liquid cooler on there, it was getting to about 83 degrees, I think it was, something like that. But I dumped it down to the 4.7, and now it's sitting at around 77 degrees under max load, which is pretty nice. So, just to go over it one more time, at the heart of the beast, we've got an Intel i7 6700K, and that has been put into a MSI Z170A Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard. I've also got 16 gigs of 2400 megahertz Kingston HyperX Fury RAM. Powering everything, we've got a Corsair CX750N power supply, which I recycled from my old system. I also recycled an EVGA GTX 970 for the Win Plus Edition. I've also got 4 SanDisk SSD Plus 240 gig solid state drives, which I plan on running RAID in a bit. I just got to get an NVMe drive to run my boot drive off of. I've also got a 2 terabyte Seagate Barracuda hard drive. I'm cooling that beast of a CPU with a Corsair H100i all-in-one cooler. And everything has fit nice and snug into a Cooler Master Mastercase Pro 5. So, those are my specs. I put about $1,600 into this PC, which by that price point it should perform pretty well, which it does. So, let's proceed with the benchmarks. So, as far as basic benchmarking goes, I went ahead and went with Cinebench, just because that's the good thing to use. Multi-threaded did pretty well. Ended up with a score of 1006 at the 4.7. And my single-thread performance was at a 197, also at 4.7 gigahertz. Turned out pretty well. Also, OpenGL score turned out to a 149.85. And it did reach 77 degrees at the hottest core. Next up was the Unigine Heaven benchmark with settings seen here: DirectX 11, high quality, normal tessellation, 4x anti-aliasing at 1080. My average frame rate was 97.8, my minimum was 9 for some reason, and max was 202.1 with a total score of 2463. Next up, I'm a big Battlefield guy, so I was really happy with these once I built it. My average score in Battlefield 1 with settings at very high. My average frame rate was 88.5. My minimum was 59. My max was 111. I was really happy with how everything turned out for Battlefield 1. I wanted to try something a little different. So I went with Doom 2016 on the Vulkan API, ultra settings with VSync off at 1080. Average score was 111.98. My minimum frames was 61, and my max was 199. I think it came up there a little bit higher in different places, but not for this. And I quite like Grand Theft Auto 5's benchmarks, so I went with this one as well, with all of those settings. Take a second to read them. Minimum frames was 18.2 right when it first loaded. My max was 230.8, and my average was a 111.6. It did really well, I think. And then I went with a competitive game, Rainbow Six Siege, with ultra settings at 1080. My average frames was 109.3, my minimum was 59.6, and my max was 246. Performed really well at 1080, so I wanted to try something a little different, and I ran it at 4K with very high settings with VSync off. Average frames was 36.6, my minimum was 25, my maximum was 46.1. I say that it is quite playable at 4K with my system, and I think that I might be playing it more often in 4K because of those scores that I got there. Turned out really well. So those are my benchmarks. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. It's doing really well. I'm definitely gonna have to upgrade the card though, because it's older. I would like more. But if you haven't checked out my build log, you can go ahead and click like right here ish. I don't know. I might put it over here or over here. I don't know. But that was that. It does really well. I enjoy it. And I don't know what kind of build logs or what kind of stuff I might be coming out with anytime soon. I'm living the life of a broke college student here. I'd like to. I just can't. I'll definitely have more of my Battlefield montages and such. I have like 400 gigs of saved footage. I'm also thinking about doing a playthrough of some of my favorite games here in a bit. I might start working on that tomorrow, but I don't know. But if you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I don't care, as I've said before. You could subscribe if you want to keep looking at all my other things that I decide to do, but you do you. I'll do me. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.